So, honourable members, I call upon the member for Tharaka to move his motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to move this adjournment motion. Pursuant to Standing Order number 33(1) of our standing orders, so that we can discuss this matter of urgent and great national importance relating to the recent invasion and incursion into the country by hordes and swarms of locusts. Mr. Speaker, my constituency, Tharaka, has had a 1 month of nightmare. A whole 1 month with the swarms upon swarms of locusts coming into the constituency and into the county from both Garissa and Kitui. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the past, and we hear this from folklore, that the worst locust invasion, similar to what we have, may have occurred about 70 years ago. It is not very certain because those days we were not as literate as we were, and records may not have been properly kept. But I am told from every community in the country, there is an age set that is identified with that locust invasion. So it dates to about 1943 to about 1950. Mr. Speaker, sir, the history we have today is that the locusts which have invaded our country originated from Yemen, a desert country in Asia. Locusts are actually desert insects, and that is why we call them desert locusts. It does appear that these locusts flew across the Red Sea into Somalia and Ethiopia, and slowly crept into the country, those from Ethiopia attacking counties such as Turkana and Marsabit. Those from Somalia first invading Mandera and Wajir, and then going down into Garissa. Eventually, we have had more than 20 counties under attack by locusts. To name a few, the first one is my county, Tharaka Nithi, and my constituency, Tharaka. Then there is Embu, Mandera, Marsabit, Wajir, Garissa, Isiolo, Kitui, Samburu, Meru, Turkana, Machakos, Kirinyaga, and Laikipia. Recently, and today, I am told Kisumu is under attack in Muhoroni and Nyando areas, and that these creatures are actually about to surround the entire country. This is why the matter becomes very important for this House to discuss means and ways of not only curbing the menace, but also ensuring that in the future we do not undergo such an attack. And eventually, the country is also in need to know what will happen to those farmers who are adversely affected. Honorable Speaker, farmers in these counties are facing countless losses and damage to crops and pasture. And most important, it's crops. Crops are being mowed and we do not have much left. That has its own repercussions. And also let's talk about pasture, because locusts love to see anything green. Any pasture that is green is subject to attack. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that these locusts are not in Narok, where they may come across my colleague here who loves to wear green, because I'm certain these locusts would think that this is a mode of pasture. He would be attacked, and I'm still worried how he would ward them off. Be that as may, thank God they are not in Narok, and I pray that they do not ever visit that county. What we have now, noting the efforts the government has put in place to try and control the infestation, there has been little success. I'm sorry, what happened is we had a minister who was a cabinet secretary. Possibly we were told he wasn't effective in attacking this menace, and he was discharged of his duties. Sometimes what we are told is quite hilarious, that he actually told us to take photographs of the locusts and send them to the ministry, where they would actually assess the stage of those locusts, and they would devise ways and means of combating them. All right, that didn't appear quite attractive, and we are told it cost him his job. A new minister came into place, and again we have had a lull of about 3 weeks with these locusts, and eventually recently, when we continued with our complaints, he actually informed us that the locusts we had were too old and were going to die. That may have been the case, but unfortunately, he never told us about the most crucial stage of these insects, which is that those old ones that are dying are not just dying. It is their lifespan that is coming to an end. The net effect is that they are laying eggs, and those eggs are going to hatch into some young creatures called nymphs. And those nymphs have a big problem, because when they start consuming anything, they consume 5 times more than the adults. And as we speak today, because my constituency Tharaka has been under attack for the last 1 month, and I must single out a sub-county known as Tharaka North, where they actually made it their bedrock, their bedroom, and where the 2 locations of that sub-county, Kathangachini and Maragwa locations, were under severe attack. Those locusts have died. But before their death, they laid the eggs, and the cabinet secretary for agriculture visited the place yesterday. And in the photographs, you would actually see him catching those nymphs, which means that we are now more endangered than we were before. And this is the reason why we need urgent government intervention, measures that will bring this menace to an end. And finally, what those who are affected are up to is that after the menace is eradicated, we stand to suffer hunger, because crops have been destroyed, pasture has been destroyed, and what we are left with is possibly nothing to eat and nothing to graze on. So we need to hear from the government what measures, what compensation measures are being put in place to ensure that the menace does not inflict too much loss and damage on us. Mr. Speaker, let me speak about what the effects of these locusts are. First and foremost, we got excessive crop damage. In fact, it's followed by excessive extermination of pastures. And what is left behind is similar to some form of a desert. It means life is going to be extremely hard. Hardships, lack of food, lack of pasture, a drought that is imminent. Now, what do we ask the government to do? I think the level of preparedness as far as these locusts are concerned, to say the least, was wanting. It was not well prepared. The government was not ready, in spite of the fact that we were warned in November that these locusts had been spotted in Ethiopia and in Somalia. So in the future, the Ministry of Agriculture and the relevant government agencies must put in place measures so that when locusts are spotted in the neighboring countries, our country is ready for the attack. And therefore, it is able to thwart, it is able to wade that attack. Now, when the locusts landed into the country and we were able to inform the ministry straight away, there was some spirited effort to spray the locusts. But eventually we were told the chemicals were exhausted, and therefore we had to wait for orders from Japan. As we waited for orders from Japan, the locusts were doing their job. which is to consume everything that is on the way. Eventually the chemicals are here, and now we are told the locusts are too old and those ones cannot be sprayed. I would call upon the government absolutely to ensure that all the areas where the nips are spotted, there is immediate action. And the minister has assured us of the fact that the whole of the NYS, the National Youth Service, will be mobilized. They will be deployed into those areas where these nips are now found, and they will be doing both spraying, aerial, mechanical, and manual. I would also add that the citizens who are quite used to spraying mechanisms, because the crops we grow, especially in Tharaka, those crops are sprayed. So the citizens are taught on measures to spray. They are given hand pumps. They are given those chemicals free of charge, so that wherever these small creatures are detected, we can actually have those eradicated. So as I move this, it is my humble prayer that we should not politicize this calamity that is facing our country. Because I heard the ministry mention that, amongst other things, we have to support BBI, we have to do all these things. BBI is for politicians, not for civil servants. Let's dwell with this calamity. It doesn't matter which side of the political divide we are in. We are all Kenyans, we are all taxpayers. May we get adequate compensation when the time comes, and especially for my constituency, Tharaka, which is one of the most affected areas by this calamity. I therefore move and plead with the government that this is actually done as we have prayed. Thank you very much.